we'll see where it is later.
Okay. So when you guys came aboard, Azine became aware that you're a vegetarian and we didn't have anything to feed you, right? Mm-hmm. And her truth and her culture is that's a really important thing to make sure that everybody is going to have food and that they're going to enjoy it. And so she was feeling some level of discomfort in me not letting her know that we had a vegetarian aboard, because she would have made provision for that. And she would have really enjoyed doing that. That's just one of the gifts that she loves to do.
Yeah.
And my response is, well, we got some granola bars around here or something, right? There's some Ritz crackers. I mean, he's going to survive, right? It's like, it's only a 3-hour event, so I'm just like, poor guy's not going to wither up and blow away. Do you remember that interaction that we had?
Oh, yeah.
And so I wasn't trying to be rude, but it's like...
No, I think we laughed about it.
We did laugh about it, but it's like, this is not going to be an event. This is not going to be a negative, oh my gosh, the event is over or it's ruined or something. Right. And so I said, okay, well now we're past that. Or I made some kind of comment like, okay, well we're already past that or something.
Yeah, because that's what Michael said.
Yeah, and he picked up on that.
My God,
like, whoa,
are you two brothers?
How did you do that? Nice. How did you just get past it so quickly?
Like, now I know why you two hang out, I think is what Mike said.
Oh, cool.
So somewhere in that experience, there was truth popping up all over the place in that moment of, we don't have the right food. Okay, how come you didn't tell me? That's really important. And just, it'll be okay. We're still going to have a great time. We're going to watch the fireworks. And just boom, boom, boom. All these things just popping up all over the place. And then we all laughed about it and we had a great time.
Yeah, and that's why I brought stuff.
Exactly. People with certain dietary, that's a little bit out of the norm for a 4th of July thing. Right. People that are thinking ahead, that have certain restraints or constraints, they usually think to bring their own stuff. They're looking after themselves, and he's self-sufficient. He's a big boy. He's figured out a lot of things in his life. He's not going to be hungry on this boat. He's not going to just be all reliant.
Well, because my truth is not her truth.
Exactly.
Your truth. My truth is, I will eat.
Oh, I got to follow this up.
Food.
So do you remember the discussion we had about, are we going to go get tortillas?
Yes.
Because I had caught a fish on the way down.
Yes.
And we had the opportunity to eat fish tacos, a yellowtail.
Nice.
Yeah. Real nice
Whoa.
one. And so we had the opportunity to do sushi and yellowtail. And literally, the fish was like kind of still alive. So, I mean, we're talking like fresh, right? Funny thing is, there were tortillas in the refrigerator.
No.
Yes, we had them the whole time. So we were debating on, should we call somebody to come bring them to us? Should we walk to the store and get them?
Because you never ended up cooking the fish.
No, we didn't.
At all.
So that was a fun.
Did you end up cooking the fish at some point?
You know, that we ate a little bit of it sushi wise, right? And it wound up in the freezer. But that's all right. It was still good.
Yeah,
still
good.
But it went from like the ultra fresh ultimate to the freezer, which is kind of like boiling a steak in a way. But somehow there's some truth in all of that about what's important and what we're going to attach to and what we can just let go. So, oh well, should we push into our quiz?
Yeah,
see what we can get done
great.
there. What I'm digging about this quiz is it was written some time ago. This one doesn't have a date at the bottom, but I know that it was maybe 6, 7, 8 years ago. And so it's interesting to me to look back at this and reflect on how my truth has changed from the time that this was written to now. For example, this very first question. Number 1 says, only 18% of my mind is conscious and defined as aware of the now. Period. It thinks ideally and writes my story. So before we jump into that, since that time, so that was common knowledge that 18% of the mind is conscious. The other 82% would be a combination of subconscious and unconscious processing.
What's the difference in those two?
Great question. Unconscious impulses, urges, instincts, primal, just the stuff that just, it's like makes my heart beat.
Okay.
Things you're not absolutely aware of and thinking about at all. The unconscious would be kind of like daydreaming or dreams at nighttime.
No, that's the subconscious.
I'm sorry, did I confuse those?
Yeah, you called it the same thing.
Oh,
twice.
okay, sorry. Thank you.
Just clarifying.
Thank you, yeah. So dreams subconscious. And maybe hypnosis, light trance work would be subconscious processing.
Well, would it fair to say that subconscious, to my way of thinking, is the warehouse? That's where all the data that filters through the five senses gets stored in the subconscious. It's all stacked back there and loaded in. All the experiences that we have go there. So that's where the mind can then recall, and where the mind can, that's where soldier gathering starts with the mind, is that it says, oh, red ball. Here's all the evidence, red ball's dangerous. Or here's all the evidence, red balls are going to hurt you, or whatever the case may be.
Interesting theory. It's like we can kick that around, but we will not be able to come up with a factual, we absolutely know kind of a thing, right?
What? No truth?
We just don't know it yet, that's all. But what's...
You may not, that's
okay. What's kind of fun about all that, and I'm good with that. Remember, I'm the one that says
right.
I don't know anything, right? So that the bridge between the unconscious, the subconscious, and the conscious is the subconscious mind, is what Robert Sapolsky talks about this and some of his books on consciousness. But what's changed since the time I wrote this is now that number has gone from 18% to 5%.
Whoa!
That the current consciousness experts are saying it could be as little as 5% of the mind that is actually aware of the here and the now, and that my name is Jeff, and I'm sitting at this chair at Timothy's table in this room, at this house, at this address, at this day, at this time in human history, and all the facts that I put in my head. That would describe consciousness.
Fascinating.
In that way.
Wow.
But ponder just for a moment that if that number really is only 5%,
wow,
how much? It's just like, that's hard. I just like don't even know what to say sometimes when I could think about that, because most people, when I present this information, they think they're 100% conscious, and that they're making all of the decisions with all of the information that's in there and all that sort of thing. So fascinating work. So let me read it again. Whether it's 18 or 5%, at this point I'd have to update it. Only 18% of the mind is conscious, aware of now, and that's in quotes because of further discussions we've had about now being only 8 seconds at a time. And it thinks ideally and writes my story. So there's a lot in that sentence. Ideal versus real is the concept I'm trying to develop here. The conscious mind thinks ideally, how things should be, not the way they are. And we're constantly in this juxtaposition looking at how we want things to be, our story, versus what actually is. And so the conscious mind is actually in conflict quite a lot, according to this, the way that this is being described.
And you can't. To the one point you made in that statement, if you're clarifying being in now, most never make it there. So what is that percentage change then? Because so few people can be in the now to allow for any of the rest of it, the way it's described.
Right.
So that adds a whole other dimension of confusion.
I like how you worded that about the ideally, because I think that's a great that's a great way to describe where a lot of people are in the perpetual argument with current reality and thinking it ought to be a little bit different than it is.
Right.
And that causes suffering, that causes pain, that causes story, it causes a conflict, because if only it hadn't happened this way, or if only this were a little bit different, we would be in the now. We could be fully present and be happy and whole. So, yeah, that's a good one, and I would say true.
Let me throw just
Good guess.
based on what you were just saying. How much do you find, and this is for both of you actually, when you spend more time in the present, in now, and less time in story, less time in all the fabricated stuff, it has been my experience, and I'm curious what y'all's experience has been, that memories become less impactful. Meaning, in the moment of the experience, and I was thinking about this with regard to our boat experience on 4th of July, because it was such a powerful, for me, a very, very, very amazing experience, because it covered so many things that I have not gotten to do. And I was driving over the Coronado Bridge today, and when I attempted to go to the memory, there wasn't any energy there for it. It wasn't gone, but it wasn't I could not recreate the experience because I wasn't in it anymore. So I lost interest in pursuing that, because I went, oh, I had that. And it was amazing, and that amazing is stored in my energy system, that joy and that stuff, but or it's not. It's gone, it's done, it happened, that experience occurred, it was fulfilling and satisfying and amazing and wonderful, and that was that moment. And that moment's not here anymore. So to try to go get it, I can't recreate it in that moment. I'd have to create a new experience. Do you guys have any experience with that? It's a kind of a fascinating new thing that I've been exploring, because I find that looking forward or backwards brings no satisfaction anymore. There's nothing satisfying there. It's what's happening right now, what happened right now. And I can think back and go, gosh, that was a powerful experience, that was amazing. But I can't do anything else with it, because I have the experience and I have
simply notice.
Energy. Yeah. It's such a cool thing to me.
Yeah.
But it's very different from what I've been used to before. I don't know before what, but so I'd be curious to hear your words about that just for a moment, if you have any. Okay, I guess not.
I have a lot of words about that, actually. So what I was thinking about, when you were saying I was trying to reach back and grab that memory, I was thinking that if you could grab it, there'd be a whole bunch of other things that would come with it. Like, it's a package deal. And not only would the enjoyable part come with it, but there would also be some residue of other things that may have not been enjoyable about that experience that are going to get loaded at the same time. That was one of the thoughts I had.
It's a really good thought. I like that one. Because you can't isolate out of the experience. The experience is the entirety. It's not. Yeah. Wow. Love that.
Yeah.
The other thought I had was that what you're describing sounds very similar to, I don't recall the name of the study, but there were these Tibetan monks that were participating in a study of pattern recognition. And the idea behind intelligence and wisdom at a very basic level is pattern recognition. You can recognize patterns and how things fit together. You're considered to be an intelligent and wise person. So there was this process. They were either watching a video or listening to audio, or maybe some combination of both. And at the point where it began to repeat itself, you were you had a little thing that you'd hit to stop it, and you would mark like, I've seen that before, or that's a repeat, or so there was all these people that participated in the study. When the Tibetan monks took their turn to go through it, because they had spent so much time meditating and getting their brain, and I can't remember what brain wave or what state they were in, but every time it repeated, it was a new experience to them. They never hit their clicker. It was like all new, even though it was just nothing but repeat at certain points. And it just flabbergasted the researchers, because they're like, these guys are idiots, you know?
Yeah. Wow.
Which was the conclusion, which is not true, right? They were just having a completely different experience. That they weren't recording past events. They were just staying here right now. So everything that came at them was brand
fresh.
new.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that stuck with me for a long, long time. So it sounds like you're tapping into some of that.
Yeah, I like that.
Is if I was just thinking of what an experience of driving over the Coronado Bridge is. You know, there's a turn involved, there's elevation, and just all the glorious scenery and everything. And if you stop for a moment to recall the fireworks, you're like, you're missing out on that whole thing
happening right in front. Yeah,
and maybe rear-ending the car in front of you or something.
or driving off the bridge, or
Wow, we're still pushing into
Number 2.
number 1 here. I guess we've. I wanted to talk about the ideal versus the real for a moment. I find myself at times using my hands. I'm separating my hands right now, where it's like, this is my ideal. This is how I want my year to go. This is how I want my finances to be. This is how the house I want to live in. And I'm constantly looking at the ideal here instead of at the real. This is what I have. This is where I am. This is what is right now. And what I found is the farther apart our ideal is from the real is our level of discontent, is our level of some dissatisfaction. And somehow we think that magic or something is going to go, and all of a sudden that's going to be right there. But I got my eye out here, like always looking out there instead of just like, man, this is amazing what's right in front of me. What's real? What's real is ideal. What's real? The closer they are together, the more content that we will be in, accepting that we will be. Yeah, satisfied. I like that.
and then out of that satisfaction, you create more,
Sure.
or
not.
You
We're
create
taking out.
well, when I say more, I don't mean more meaning greater, meaning additional creation.
So in this statement, it's the conscious mind that is focused on ideal. Some people would also say it's that part of the mind that maybe is more egoic.
Yep. And the chemicals produced there. Remember we were talking about the chemicals. Yeah.
And that's what's writing our story. So the ego, the ideal, the story is written ideally about what should or shouldn't be happening right now.
Well, and to tie it to some of the other questionnaires, ideal is being in the future. Ideal is not being in the present.
Right.
So if you're in the future, then you can't be in the present. But if you're in the future, tie it back to what was the? Do you remember what the statement was about that? Back at the other ones, I don't remember it.
Sometimes the ideal could be the good old days. So it can be backwards as well. The good old days, you know, the 50s, Leave It to Beaver, June Cleaver.
Those are even weirder because it's actually trying to project the past into the future. So you're so not in the now at that point. You're just like you're on some,
right.
It's like this gets very confusing.
All right, let's push to number 2. The remaining 82% is subconscious and unconscious, which is defined as memories, urges, instincts, and drives, daydreams, night dreams. So we hit a little bit about that earlier.
Well, that's one of the things that that happened for me in the course of the work that I've been doing is because we used to talk about only being able, that we only access 10% of our brain's potential, and the remarkable thing about what's below the conscious threshold and that transformation and enlightenment is only increasing that percentage. It's only about how do I go from 10% conscious to 15% conscious to 20% conscious, and that's bringing what's below the conscious threshold above the conscious threshold, which is all that crap that's stored in the warehouse.
Yeah.
And that as you become conscious, then the warehouse you start to lose some of that debris.
The work that the three of us do, I would venture to say, would fit into the category of subconscious experiences, where primarily it's believed that hypnosis and daydream or night dream are the primary ways that the subconscious is activated and engaged. But certainly the higher brain living work that you did, that I got to experience with you, felt very dream-like. And I know the trance work that I do with EMDR is creating that experience for people. And I'm sure that the work I've gotten to see you do when you did a demo on Eric was very much like that too. So we're all into that.
Yeah.
And certainly yoga and meditation and things like that are all in that subconscious realm.
And we all have ways that we induce a shifted state in our clients to be able to go from here to here. Oh, sorry, you couldn't see that, guys. That was tunnel vision versus...
Monkey see.
I was doing a tunnel vision versus having a wider peripheral view. Sometimes I forget where you can't see me.
So question 3 says, my conscious mind can distinguish time and knows what is real and what is not. I love this one as well. It's so important, so important to get this, that it's believed that 5, maybe as little as 5%, maybe as much as 18% of the mind is the only part of the mind that actually knows what's real and what isn't. However you would define reality. So you go to a movie theater and you're watching Friday the 13th with Freddy Krueger. That as much as 95% of the mind or the 82% of the mind is sitting there having an experience as if Freddy Krueger really exists, and is walking out of the theater believing that on Elm Street,
oh good, you got back,
down there is not a nice place that you want to go. So days later, months later, you're driving through town. Most towns of any size have streets named after trees. So there's Fig Tree, Plum Tree, Elm Tree, Elm Street or whatever. And you're not consciously driving along, but subconsciously and inside your mind is going, do not turn down that street. Because you exposed yourself by going to the movie to something that's not real, that part of the mind really believes exists. So that's why we think that's why vampires are still in all the media, and Loch Ness Monster and Yeti and Bigfoot and all of these legends. It's like, it's all real to that part of the mind. So we're having this 18% experience where we know that Thor really doesn't exist. Ant-Man, the Wasp, all of the Marvel characters. You go and sit in the theater and you're having that experience as if it's real to the vast majority of the mind. But it's not. So I've always just really enjoyed this idea that we have to be very careful what we allow to come into ourselves.
But isn't that actually experiencing that reality?
Can you say more about that?
Well, regardless of whether, regardless of the end result, we're exposing ourselves to all kinds of different experiences and realities all the time. So movies become a reality, music becomes a different reality because it alters our state in some form. So because it's altering, its impact is in that moment, that is the reality. in that experience, if you're completely in now and you're being in that experience, that is now. That is the experience until you remove yourself from it, and then you're back into or go back to your normal reality. But to me, it seems like that segues into all the some of the major teachings as far as parallel realities and alternate realities. We live in them all the time.
Right.
Everywhere we go. I mean, you walk into Walmart, you can consider yourself in an alternate reality, because you are if you don't live there, if you don't spend all your time there. So all of those things to me are just experiences in alternate realities. It's just a question of what you do with those realities when they're can you shuck them off when you're done, and that's the problem, is that most can't. You can't shuck that. That was something that I went through with my teacher years ago. This process of we'd watch a movie, and I would just get so irritated because the movie was really dumb, or it was a kind of humor I didn't like, or whatever, and I'd just sit there and get pissed and annoyed and like, yeah, can you imagine? and I would just be like, what the heck, why, and one day she turned to me and said, why don't you just get off the couch? It's simple. You don't like it? Get off the couch and go in the other room. Go outside. Go do something else. Yeah. You don't have to sit here and subject yourself to this reality. Right. You can move yourself to somewhere else.
Yeah, right.
And to think that was like rocket science for me at that moment. Like, get off the couch. What?
Yeah.
I can get off the couch and not feel like this anymore? Holy crap. It was amazing. But the point being that in the moment it is the reality. To my way of thinking. That Nightmare on Elm Street, in that moment, the reason it scares the snot out of you is because that's your reality at the moment.
Right, and so you walk out of the theater saying...
carrying that reality.
I know this was just a movie, that only 5 to 18% of the mind is saying that was just a movie. The rest of the mind is experiencing that as though it's still real. So we have to tell ourselves, no, that was just a movie. It doesn't exist at all. Because you'll have nightmares about it. So nightmares that would show up would be the person who didn't walk out of the movie theater and tell themselves consciously that was just a movie.
Mm-hmm. Well, but we're also leaving out the complete inundation that occurs to your energy system. So that whole creation of that reality is designed that way to specifically induce you into the reality of, I'm going to laugh, I'm going to cry, I'm going to scream, I'm going to do whatever I'm going to do. So that whole thing and all of the energy that's produced in that is going after particular chakras. Mm-hmm. So depending on your particular bent, depending on your particular experience in life and your particular history, you're going to carry that reality with you, and it's going to impact you. Again, it's all different for each of us. Some can walk out and go, that's just total crap, and slough it off. Then they go have 4 beers. Mm-hmm. Because they need to drown what's happening in their energy, to your point, which is your level of sensitivity about that stuff. Mm-hmm. They don't make the equation that taking that reality on has caused me to now have to adjust my energy system, but most people are going to go, I'm going to go drink, I'm going to go take a few shots because it'll calm my energy down because it's been activated, right? So it's yeah, man, this stuff is just fascinating. Just fascinating, because it's if you take it home, it's because whatever you saw in that experience of that reality resonated to something that's already in your energy, already in your subconscious warehouse of experiences that say, this is scary, this is a bad thing, this really exists, because your boogeyman was your uncle when you were 3 who molested you. I'm going extreme. And now Freddy Krueger shows up. Freddy Krueger, and I go spend 3 hours or an hour and a half with Freddy Krueger, and I go, he's still alive. Mm-hmm. Oh my God. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Because like you said, the mind doesn't differentiate. It doesn't have that capacity. Yeah. Just take it in.
One of the phenomena that's really being talked a lot about right now with this in mind are all the video games that kids are playing that are having this first shooter experience. And the correlation between that and the gun violence at schools, that you'd have to be an idiot and completely blindfold yourself to think that there's not some correlation there. And so, people that are saying, we got to get rid of the guns, well, that whole thing is coming from the video games that these kids are playing hours and hours and hours a day, so that picking up a gun and pointing at somebody is not that different than what they're doing in their video games.
Yeah.
For example, in South Korea, having been there numerous times and actually lived there probably a total of a year of my life at various different times, in South Korea, all homes have M16s in them with field protective masks because they are at the ready to counter an invasion from North Korea. Every year, every citizen in South Korea goes and fires their M16 that they have in their house.
Smart.
They have a loaded weapon in their house. And not just one, the family has them. You don't hear about kids grabbing the loaded M16 that's not in a safe and running down to the school and shooting everybody up in school.
Good point.
And I'm not making this up. This is easily verifiable information.
Yeah.
That every year they all get trained on putting their field protective mask on and going and shooting their weapons, and you don't hear about the gun violence.
That's a lot of M16s.
Yeah, it is. And to me, the reason that you don't hear about that is that they actually live in community. When I say everybody gets one, that's not true. There are some people in South Korea that have mental disturbances and maybe they're alcoholics or whatever, and they don't get one. The neighborhood knows it's not a good idea for Johnny to have one, so they don't get one. But the vast majority, it's just interesting that. Anyway, I'll get off my soapbox here, but I would love to see gun violence go away and our first shooter games go away.
Yeah.
That's easy for me to say because I'm not in the industry and my family doesn't make a livelihood from programming and marketing, all that sort of thing. But I think the world would be, if those same programmers kept their jobs and they were writing video games of flying rainbows across the sky, or I don't know, doing something more wholesome, growing vegetables. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the same. Just switch the topic.
Yeah.
Anyway, I hope that didn't sound too preachy. Alrighty, so the conscious mind can distinguish time and knows what's real and what's not real. So again, imagine that vast majority of our mind, it doesn't even know what day it is and what month, what year. It's just all big swirl. My conscious mind considers the source of information.
Which number is this?
Number 4.
Okay.
My conscious mind considers the source of information and can accept it or reject it. And so this is kind of cool that we're talking about truth, because this is really, it's only the conscious part, only the small part actually says, well, where did that come from? And is it reliable or not? Again, what's real, what's not real? So the subconscious mind is easily sold. The unconscious mind, easily sold. This is the best pillow for you. So think about this for a moment. That's why it's so easy to sell Christianity. That cannibalism is practiced, like we talked about in a couple of podcasts before. The vast majority of the mind is an easy sell. Isn't that interesting?
Okay.
Sounds good. And now if you take me to church and everybody's doing the same thing and we're all hopping and bouncing and everything and I'm having an experience, well, surely this must be right.
But isn't that a function of the conscious mind?
What
because
part?
that sentence
The
you just
experience
used,
part?
the sentence you just used to finish that, the declarative statement about the experience. The reason I say that is because my understanding is that subconscious is filterless, so it doesn't differentiate anything. It simply takes information as it's presented, and that's it.
Right, we're just
doesn't
talking
say
about the conscious mind right now.
Well, no, you were referencing it. You referenced it when you were talking. That's what I was bringing up.
Okay, so the conscious mind considers the source of information and can accept it or reject it. The subconscious, unconscious mind doesn't have the ability to do that.
Right.
So it's an easy sell. And particularly if you put a experience next to it or with it that your neighbor's having, or this man that you admire that's the local preacher, seems like a nice guy.
Well, it isn't saying anything about impact, which that's where I was going with it. So, to that, yeah. It was where I was going back to the movie thing was, yeah, the conscious mind may have the ability to do that, but the subconscious doesn't. So that's why you can sit in a movie and still go home and have nightmares.
Right.
Because it just takes it. It doesn't differentiate anything. But you can say to yourself, this is just a movie. This is just a movie. Subconscious is like, whatever. It was another experience. Energy in.
A few nights ago, I watched a movie with my girlfriend's daughters. It was a quote-unquote scary movie, and it involved an entity in this haunted house tugging on the feet of an innocent girl laying in bed. And so either the next night or that night or something, I'm going to bed in my loft, and it's summertime right now, so I don't have the sheets over my feet. And as I'm getting ready to fall asleep, what do you think was going through my head?
Right.
My freaking feet are going to get tugged on. And I start laughing, going, you got to be shitting me. And excuse me for swearing, but it was just kind of like one of those, come on, I'm an educated, intelligent, present man, and I'm thinking my feet are going to get tugged on tonight. Isn't that wild?
Huh.
Because I was sitting there. I exposed myself
You're 95%
to this
got
thing.
the upload, right?
And there was a kind of thing that happened during the movie, and all that charge gets connected to all that, right?
Yeah.
And you can't just go, oh, I'm going to leave it here,
Well,
you know?
It's funny how
That's why I had to learn to get off the couch.
Those-
I couldn't walk away and not carry all that crap with me. For
those
hours.
movies don't ever lose their draw. The smash 'em up, thrashing, scary, just like trying to just make it as crazy as you possibly. That always sells. I wonder what it is about our nature that needs that. Maybe any thoughts on that?
The discussions I've had with the girls has been that it makes them feel alive. And it does.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I went through a period when I was younger that horror movies went out of our way to find horror movies.
Yeah.
Went out of our way to find the goriest, nasty. I mean, I still remember what the heck was that one movie. It doesn't matter. But, yeah, used to seek them out. The more gore, the better.
All right, pushing to number 5. Once information enters
Once you know better, you do better? Is that what it is?
Once information enters my subconscious mind, my mind believes it as real and true. So this is awesome that we're talking about truth tonight, and this stuff is right here, right in front of us. So the idea is if I draw this circle and I put the line in toward the top as the conscious mind, with an arrow coming this way like information is coming to me, and at that level of information awareness, I can either reject it and say, no, that's not coming in. But if I sit there and watch it and I'm constantly exposing myself to it, even though I'm saying that's not real, the behavior and the constant exposure and constant reinforcement of it allows it to come down into the subconscious mind. And once it's in there, it is real. It is real at that point, to that part of my mind.
Yeah.
So Jesus is coming back with blowing a trumpet in the sky, and everybody's going to hear him, and the dead shall rise, and it's all going to happen. That is my truth, because I've heard that preached who knows how many hundreds and hundreds of times. Even though I cannot imagine what that would actually look like, to see all the grave sites and the cemeteries open up, and these well-preserved people that you were talking about earlier, they'll be happy, right? Because their flesh will still be on them, and, right? They'll be looking good for that party,
Oh,
right?
Lord. Oh. I think it's
Selfie sticks.
yeah.
Zombie selfie sticks.
Selfie stick. I also like that one too because there's. It also speaks to the reality that if you indulge anything with your five senses, it's going in. It doesn't end at the conscious mind. And part of the conscious decision is not engaging the five senses in whatever it is. Because as soon as they're engaged, it's you own it. Because there's still the whole energetic experience, but if you're not putting your awareness in the moment on that thing, it cannot then penetrate. And so the five senses become critical to that process. So it's not about, that's why Get Off the Couch is so important, because it's not about sitting there saying this isn't real, this isn't real, this isn't real, because your senses are already absorbing it. It doesn't matter what you're saying in your head. Your eyes see it, your ears hear it, your nervous system feels it. So getting off the couch disconnects you from that energy.
Right.
And now you can truly not take it on. But you'll still take on some portion of it, but if you didn't stay in it, then it's not going to stick. But it's probably go back to was it the 8-minute thing?
8 second.
8 second.
8
That
seconds.
as soon as you expose the senses to 8 seconds worth of, it's already in. So it's that's why it's that whole idea is so important to manage the thoughts and manage the feelings,
Right.
And be aware of those things, because as soon as you take it in, it's not coming out.
So let's put that couch in a movie theater, and now that you can recline, and that chair has motion in it, and they even have little snifter things that shoot sprays
Scents.
and
Oh, wow.
smells and things, and you can even order a steak and be feeding your pie hole with whatever you want. So all those senses are just adding up to make the experience more
Real. Creating the truth in a huge way. This is so fun. Where's Timothy gone?
I'm just listening. Yeah.
Just chilling?
Yeah.
Number 6 reads, my subconscious and unconscious mind cannot reject the information it has to work with. Once it's in, it's in.
Can you do that one again?
Sure. My subconscious and unconscious mind cannot reject the information it has to work with by itself.
Right.
Once it's in, it's in. That is our truth. As Jim was talking about earlier, through the work that all of us are doing in a little bit different way, we're bringing that information up into consciousness. And then we can say, get the blank out of here.
Exactly.
I don't accept this any longer. And we've all had that awakening or the openness to purge, to get the stuff out of there. And be open to new stuff.
Love it.
All right, number 7. Dreams communicate ideas between my unconscious and subconscious mind to my conscious mind.
One more time on that one.
Dreams communicate ideas between my unconscious / subconscious to my conscious mind. So that's the bridge. Dreams are the bridge.
How did you get there?
As far as like what the mechanism of dreams are?
Yeah, that it's the place that I'm hung up is that I'm questioning that it's interpreted by the what's the last thing, by the conscious
The
mind.
conscious mind.
That it's communicating to the conscious mind. That's the part that I'm struggling
Okay.
with.
So in the dream analysis type books, the metaphor that's often used is, imagine your mind being a news station, and all day long it's gathering information. And at 6 p.m. it's got to put on a 1-hour show, the news. It's got to tell the story of the news today.
Yeah.
And so you've got all these sensors out there around the community gathering the news, and then it comes back at a certain time, and some editor is madly scrambling. What are we going to put on tonight? And that show must go on every night. And sometimes to show, like, let's say an aircraft crashed off the coast into an aircraft carrier accident happened. Well, they may not actually have the footage of that, so they'll grab a reel off the shelf that has an F-18 taking off that happened 6 years ago, and another one that had an aircraft carrier float, and it's not, but the brain goes, oh, okay, that's kind of what happened, right? It tells the story close enough.
Mm-hmm.
So the notion is that what is revealed to us are the issues that we're working on in our present life. And sometimes these can be shown in themes, or it can actually be shown to us in problems that we're trying to resolve, or crises that we're trying to get through. And they come up in the form of, this is a message. I'm trying to give you a message. It's as if that information, that wisdom that's inside that doesn't speak the English language. That's the interesting part. I think there might be a question in here later that the subconscious and unconscious mind, it doesn't know what words are. That's only a process of the conscious mind. So that is the only way to communicate this information, and then we're left to try to figure out what the meaning of these shows are, these entertaining things are that we're watching. So that's kind of just the basic foundational piece of what is the purpose of dreams and why is that happening for us each night. And some of it is just to purge, to move short-term information into long-term information. That's the mechanism that happens to get it out of the amygdala, put it into the thalamus or the hypothalamus. And we can't prove that. We just see those activity centers lighting up during sleep studies. Some people even believe that that's real information is stored in our field, not actually in a specific mechanism of the brain, which is really cool.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know, this is all just kind of guesswork. But it seems that from the different works and courses and things that I've studied over the years, that there's some consensus that that's the purpose of a dream, is to try to communicate a theme, an issue, a problem, or just an attaboy. If you have a really good dream, that's just your mind saying, I'm really kind of pleased with what's going on in your life right now, and keep up the good work. But if we pay attention to them, there is really some awesome information that's there available for us. And it's rarely about the content of the dream. It's
about the feeling, isn't it?
There's a theme.
The symbols.
There's a theme in there that we're working on.
But is the theme the directive, or is it? Do you think it's more about letting the body sort of off gas feelings that it doesn't?
It's all of it.
Yeah. Hmm. And do you have any books that you recommend about understanding the dream?
Off
world?
the top of my head right now, I don't.
Okay.
That's something we could
Get into
kick around
another time,
later. Yeah.
Okay.
Alrighty, number 8. We play all the characters in our dreams. I guess we are going to talk a little bit more about dreams. So one of the general consensus ideas is that every character in our dream is us. We play all the characters in our dreams. Our dreams are gifts, and they reveal conflicts that we are going to try to resolve. Let me read a few more of these, and I'll stop and try to put it all together.
Can I say that I am a little bit on time today?
Okay?
So I don't, if we're going to dive deeply, let's hold that. Because probably...
Doesn't look like it. Looks like maybe 1 or 2 more questions.
Okay.
We'll get to like question 10. And
Cool.
Unresolved dreams result in repetitive dream themes or reoccurring dream themes. It's going to show up again. It's kind of like, hey, you get to watch this show again. You guys had those?
Oh,
Like
yeah.
every 3 months the same kind of thing comes up, or every 3 years or something like that. Oh, there it is again. I'm naked in front of my 7th grade locker, and I can't remember the combination. And all the kids are laughing at me.
Right.
Here I am again. I'm now in my 50s, and I'm still having that dream of 7th grade. By itself, dreaming is not able to resolve significant life emotional experiences. And that's such a great discovery, because if it were, nobody would have PTSD. And so where we're going to find this questionnaire going is that there are certain life events that happen that get recorded in our mind at a specific frequency that keeps it in short-term memory. And the idea of the therapy called the EMDR is that it desensitizes that frequency so that it can pass from short-term into long-term memory.
Wow.
And we'll talk a little bit about that, I'm sure, some more next time. Yeah, the whole dream thing is really fun. And it's not as complicated as a lot of people have come to believe that it is. I like to break it down into 4 quadrants. And if you imagined a piece of paper in 4 parts, and say top left was all the feminine or females in the dream, top right would be males, bottom left would be the authority figures, and bottom right would be symbols or aspects of nature. So you've got men and women, and you've got authority and nature. And everything fits into those 4 quadrants. The girl quadrant is about if it's a woman having the dream, she's obviously in that quadrant, but it could also be her mom, it could be her sister, it could be a stadium full of women. But every woman in that dream is her. Every aspect of the dream is her. Our mind will use people we know and just pop them in there, because it's like, hey, why go invent a new one when you got that one ready made?
Yeah.
That's kind of fun. But if you have this quadrant, there'll be some either agreement in these quadrants or some conflict in these quadrants. And so I like to draw a line between, let's say, the feminine one and the authoritarian one. Let's say that there's a cop pulling the girl over in her dream. Well, there's a conflict there between her feminine energy and the authoritarian energy. And we can go into this more and more later, but it's really not that complicated if we're just looking at the themes of agreement versus the themes of disagreement and trying to get a little bit of understanding about what that is. Most of the time it has to do with authority, and authority is about either the authority that we have in our life that we're not matching up to our desires and belief systems and the way that we're living our life, or that we don't think that we're living up to society's expectations, or then the big guy, God's mad at me. But authority figures can actually be like a police officer, or it could be an older person, it could be an institution. But most of the negative dreams have to do with some misalignment between authority and where we are, what we're doing. And it comes down to, I'm not following the rules. And the reality is well, who said you have to? Are those actually the rules that are right for you? Right?
Yeah.
So we can change those rules. Well, shall we call it a night tonight, guys? Do we need to do that?
Okay.
Yes, please.
All right. I look forward to the next one.
This was well, they've all been fun for me, but I don't know why this one kind of like refreshed me a little bit more. Maybe it was the work we did at the beginning of what we're going to call ourselves and the whole truth thing, and there was a lot of that in here tonight. So, until next time.
Until next time.
All right.
Good night, everyone.
This is the Adventures in Truth
Adventures
podcast.
in Truth podcast.
Inauguration.
Good night.
Sweet.
Yeah.
All right.